if we just dive into some of the other kind of consistent themes that came out of these calls, just start with that shift to longer term decision making up there. I think that to me is a real move of confidence, So what we mean by that is there's a lot of the announcements covered off things like hedging policies going back much more to sort of normalized levels. So people are looking much further out in terms of what currency or fuel hedging they need. During COVID, everything came right in. It was very much, we have no idea what capacity we're going to need, so we're just going to hedge a much smaller proportion. But even things like committing to new aircraft and committing to long-term airport landing charges and that sort of thing, there was just this much more talk of longer-term horizons and longer-term decision-making, which I think supports a lot of that positivity. Even if we get other waves, we think we can cope with it now. I don't know if anyone wants to touch on any of these other ones. I mean, the refinancing, just generally, I think everybody that I listened to, Sarah, I don't know if you would agree, talked about delevering as a priority. They've already in the process or have already paid back any government borrowings. And I think there's a deadline, isn't there, on the COVID corporate finance facility? I think it's got to be repaid by maybe April. So there's one or two that haven't, but have to within the next month or so. But very much the focus was repair balance sheet, improve credit rating, try and get back to net debt levels that we had pre-pandemic, which I think is interesting, but it feels like they're all playing defense at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, a lot of them have taken, well, I mean, TUI especially have taken quite a lot of government loans that they were very focused on telling the investors that they've started to repay and that they have these longer term plans, as you mentioned, to, release more cash and repay more of those. And as you said, the kind of longer term view on things, they were talking about what to do with Marella Cruises again, that, the things that they'd thought about pre-pandemic, they're now kind of going back to and rethinking their views on those things. And I mean, I guess for all our clients as well, really, everyone's been so focused on short-term forecasting. So everyone's been focused on, okay, well, what's my cash flow look like ins and outs for, the next 3 months, maybe the next 6 months. But now is really the time that everyone's now shifted that focus to, okay, well, actually, things are hopefully, I don't know about getting back to normal, but, things are settling down, things are looking much more positive. Well, actually, are we just living hand to mouth now, or can we, think about the future a bit more? What are our long-term goals and what should we be now using, or even potentially even raising funding again to now go and invest in, to try and take advantage of the opportunities that are.
Just touching on these couple of other things, because we need to get onto regulations and I'm conscious of time. Definitely seen a move to more people direct contracting. I think there's been a way to scale up very quickly is to go through bed banks, because you can very quickly access lots of new territories and you can have content there. But what has been a very clear determining factor between those who were more successful than others in the crisis, particularly around that whole refund period, that first sort of 6 months of the crisis, was the people who had the personal relationships with the end suppliers generally fared much better. And so we see much more people, a lot more of the big companies moving away from the intermediaries and committing. And it's expensive to do this because you need a team of people to go out and write those contracts and maintain the relationships, but definitely feels like that's a strategic play. Would you agree? I don't know if you're seeing that amongst some of your client base as well, but the bigger corporates definitely talk about that extensively, I think.
Yeah, I think it must a lot of that must be that control element, as you say, being able to speak directly to those suppliers, and rather through an intermediary. That would be far easier in this last 2 years than by being more direct. And
just the last point on there, and Sarah, I don't know if you've got a view on this, but kind of wrapped up a bunch of different things here into what I would probably try to describe as trying to drive spending and decision making further up the funnel. So a lot of the ancillary stuff that we talked about in the previous slide, this was companies using technology or part of the sales flow to get customers to spend money on those ancillaries at the point of booking. Very much seemed to be that customers are willing to spend and open their wallets, but rather than going, well, we'll just buy the holiday for now and then we'll sell you something while you're in resort or whatever, it was now's the time to capture them spending, committing to using certain restaurants committing to using the spa, all that sort of stuff was all being spent up front. It was almost like, and I think Matt's point around voucher and is there an upgrade? Is there a sunk cost thing where I spent $2,000, $3,000 on a holiday a year and a half ago? I'm going to just spend again because I've forgotten about that money, and that could be what's driving it. But it definitely felt like that was a strategic intention, was to try to push more of that decision making further up.
Yeah, definitely. I think, because everyone is, well, by the sounds of things, everyone wants to kind of spend big this year and enjoy the entire experience while they're on holiday as well. The TUI Amusement is now TUI's fastest growing segment, which is all their experiences that they add on to their packages. And Airbnb actually launched this sort of I'm flexible feature where you go on onto their app or onto their website and you kind of, their app mainly I guess, but they're and you can just put in your dates and say, or even not even put in your dates and just say I'm flexible, and as a customer you're saying, well, show me options. And so the good thing for Airbnb is that they can actually use that to manage the supply as well. So they can push people, they can offer people destinations or time periods which aren't currently, where they've currently got loads of supply, so they can and also they can monitor what those customers' behavior is. So it's really interesting that they're getting
like a yield management tool almost to just drive supply towards demand. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.